Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone joining us across the world. This is Gaurav Kapoor, one of the co-founders and executive vice president at Indegene. Very, very happy to welcome you to another edition of Indegene Digital Summit, where we bring industry leaders together to discuss what are the advancing methodologies to drive commercialization at scale and solve problems for the industry. I'm so happy that we've been doing this for 10 years and we've brought value each time to our clients and all the participants who come in to learn and solve some of the problems which they're facing over the next 2 years, 3 years, and 5 years. This year too, we have over 50 speakers across in the next 2 days. You will see them speak on areas of topic. This time our focus has been how do you drive commercialization for the future and across rare disease to mass products. We are deeply grateful for the people who join and across the world and take out time. So we're looking forward that we could add value to you each time you attend a session. To kick off the summit today, I'm hugely honored to bring in our first opening keynote with Olivier Charmeil. Olivier is head of general medicine. He's executive vice president for general medicine, which has a portfolio of iconic brands and essential medicines. He's been one of my favorite pharma leaders, who has undoubtedly brought in an extremely good balance of transformation and business acumen to the industry. He joined Sanofi in 1994 and over 30 years has held roles across Sanofi Pasteur, across China and emerging markets. And also, in addition, he's also on the board of the European Pharmaceutical Association. I'm looking forward to kick off this note today with a series of questions, and we will have candid conversation on what he thinks, what the industry should do in next 3 to 5 years to solve some of the problems and help the healthcare ecosystem. Thank you, Olivier. Welcome to the Digital Summit. And hope I did justice to the introduction.
Very happy to be with you, Gaurav. Thank you. I think you summarized it very well.
Thank you.
Probably better than what I would have been able to do.
My pleasure, and I'm deeply honored once again. Let me kick off with the first question, Olivier, for you. Given the extensive experience across various markets and therapies, what are your core components of successful commercial models? Can you share some of the guiding principles and how you've implemented these models in diverse settings from rare disease to mass markets? Love to have your views.
Yeah, so it's an important question. And of course, things have been moving since I joined the pharma industry. And maybe I shed a little bit light on what are the successful commercial models. The first is definitely the customer-centric approach. I remember when I started in this industry, no one really knew exactly who was the customer. Was it the HCP? Was it the patient? Was it the payers? I think, and I remember, launching the A2RA in hypertension, where, to be honest, it was massive, promotion, and it was HCP driven. So now things are getting more sophisticated, and of course, it's a combination. It's push to pull, in a sense that things have evolved. I was mentioning the A2RA, where it was clearly a push carpet bombing model. And when now things have evolved, and it's clear that it has evolved also on the mass market, and we are trying, of course, using tools as much as we can, but to really be very, very specific, and personalizing, our intervention. On the, of course, the rare disease, it's a little bit different here. It's very much, a pull approach, identifying the patient. The HCPs are here very, very dispersed. And of course, being able to identify the patient. The second point, if I'm looking back to my last 25 years in this industry, it's really very much about value and access strategy. It's value above price. It's really value, how much value you create, both on for the healthcare system on the mass market with of course cost effectiveness, but also how also on the rare disease segment where it's a little bit different. You bring outcome to the patient and to the HCP. So this theme of value-based, proposition and access strategy got a lot of traction. Of course, the new currency of marketing is data. More and more, we are making data that we are making decisions based on data. And rather than data, to be honest, on my side, I prefer to talk about insight. How much we are able to get, out of those data, how much we are able, to use those data to have the maximum impact. And it's obvious on the mass market where we are, using tons of data that we want to leverage in order to have the maximum impact and personalize, our intervention for the HCP or even the patients. So really, it is a new currency of marketing. I remember, many years ago, to make sure that we were able to align, market access, medical, was something which was pretty difficult. Now it's very much about making sure that we use our resources in the most efficient way, in the most agile way. And for me, there is really this triangle with the HCP, with the marketing dimension, with, of course, the market access that is playing a very, very important role, and medical. And, I spend most of my time yelling at my team, telling them, guys, you need to work transversally. You need to make sure that, you ensure a continuum and you work transversally because we have, of course, a common goal. With that, that's the role of the patient. And, of course, digital has brought a lot, internet has brought a lot. And to make sure that you also look at the patient dimension is something that is very important. So it's very much about digital and omni-channel engagement. So it's really finding the right way in order to ensure the reach out and to create, the maximum impact and to engage the various stakeholders.
Thank you so much, Olivier. If I move on, your experience across multiple markets, you've handled markets beyond 50 markets, 60 markets in your so how do you actually, the challenge for a lot of industry leaders and your point of view would be very interesting to hear. How do you take some of your plans globally? How do you implement, because across different markets, there is different strategies required. So what do you do from a global to a local standpoint? What is your guidance there?
Yeah, Gaurav, it's a very important question. And I often say that science is global, but of course, healthcare is local. And you mentioned that, of course, I'm traveling a lot. I'm in charge of more than 50 or 60 markets. And for me, to make sure that you balance in the best way what I call the global standardization within a large multinational, it's absolutely key. But of course, with local customization. So there is a healthy tension that you need to organize. You need, of course, to tailor the global strategies to the local market needs. I was just saying that I'm back from China. It's obvious that the specificities of the China market are very different from other markets. So, but within a large organization, you need to have standards, and standards are absolutely key. You cannot, have infrastructures that are too diverse. They need to be able to be scaled globally, while, of course, given some freedom in terms of local adjustment. So you need to have enough space so that you can, of course, adapt to the specificities of the market. But you need to have a global standard. Otherwise, it's simply too costly and it's not efficient. So I'm very much, on this healthy tension between the global standardization that you need and, of course, local adjustments that are needed but are not challenging, of course, the globalization. We need also to make sure that depending on the local maturity, and it's of course that, for example, on the mass market, there is a significant difference between, mature countries where we have difficulties in terms of access, where we need to make sure that we leverage, our digital tools. When in the more emerging market, it's more about Salesforce deployment and reach. So we need also having very strong global standards. We need to be flexible and to be able to adapt our market. If I am projecting myself in the next, let's say, 3 or 4 or 5 years, it's obvious that there will be more and more personalization. More and more personalization, of course, to HCP, to payers, to patients. And of course, both AI and machine learning are going to play, and are playing today, a very important role. I was absolutely convinced 3 or 4 years ago that AI and machine learning would be so transformative for this industry. And I would argue that the train has left the station. I think there are more and more personalization. And in order to make sure that, we have a maximum impact, we need to be ready, of course, to personalize and our interaction with HCP and, of course, payers. I'm also very convinced that the model is going to be more and more hybrid. You understand my point? Again, I was referring to the carpet bombing, back 25 or 30 years ago, where it's about, number of sales reps, it was about deployment. It's clear that now it's more about a combination. It's a combination of, digital intervention, digital first, what we call in some case. It's pure play. It's a combination also of remote, maybe also remaining some face-to-face interaction. So it's how you get organized to organize the sequence of intervention so that at the end of the day, they are the most impactful. And I see that through a combination of, remote intervention and, of course, digital interaction. There is one dimension that at the beginning of my career didn't really exist in the industry. It was the one that was related to the role of the caregivers. I'm on my side with my old parents a caregiver, and I see, of course, the role I play, and I see the value that is brought by digital solutions. My father had a stroke a little bit more than 10 years ago, and there are, every day probably 10 different interventions. Wow. And of course, digital here can really help, and digital platform can help to coordinate all the interaction.
Very interesting, Olivier. I know you've been so passionate about the whole hybrid model and doing personalization. I remember a couple of years ago, you were first time when I met, when we were meeting in the context of omni-channel, you talked about also content. You're extremely passionate about content at scale and content personalization because that's key to driving hybrid models. What's your point of view? How do you do that well? For the industry leaders.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. If there is something that keeps me awake, it's how much we can continue to drive content and do it in a very industrial way, because of course we need more and more content in order to be able, of course, to personalize our intervention based on personas, and of course it's about behaviors, about pain points. I would argue also it's about care gaps, depending on the healthcare system. So how are we organized to create modular, content that can be customized, that can be repurposed, that can be adjusted? It's really the concept of having a content factory. And you are, of course, one of the guys in the industry that have pushed very much this concept of content factory, which is definitely the way to go. But it's not only having the content, it's also making sure that you have the delivery system in order to make sure that you use this content in the various channels and integrating, of course, the different channels. We know that the more content that we have, the more what we call the medical and legal and regulatory review becomes a bottleneck. So yes. I'm also very much insisting that it's nice to create additional content, but we need to make sure that this famous MLR process is moving much faster. Speed to market is absolutely critical. We are in a world where everything is immediate, and assuming that we are attending a congress with our breaking news, Of course, we are not going to wait for another 2 or 3 weeks for the MLR process to come to an end. We need to make sure that we have a more and more industrialized, automated way to approve modular content. The last point I was saying, this notion of adjusting message in real time is really important. It's part of the personalization. You know, if I'm attending a congress or I'm not attending a congress for different reasons, I want to make sure that I get access immediately in real time to the news. So you see, there is a lot of around content. It's very much about being able to create that content, but also being able to have the right review in order to be able that you move fast and you share the content that you have created.
Thank you, Olivier. This is very valuable. One, I'll be a little provocative here, Olivier. While we're moving, the industry is moving, I feel the industry needs a little bit of mindset change and thinking slightly differently. What kind of capabilities and mindset, kind of guiding principles you're building, in your company, and what would you guide others? Because post-COVID and IRA, there are serious pressures on the industry to question the model and look at something, not disruptive, but yes, over 3-5 years, something which is substantially different. So, what would be your guidance to all of us?
So, Rob, you're not provocative. I think it's a very important point. For us, it's new. You understand what I mean? And we want to bring disruptions into an industry that in some way has been relatively conventional in the last 15 or 20 years. I would argue that in the last 5 years, there has been more changes than the one I've experienced, in the last 15 or 20 years. So for me, it's a mindset, it's a capability also thing. It's what I call, ambidextrous leadership first. It's making sure that not only we maximize our current business, but also we are redefining at the same time the business of tomorrow. And it's, of course, a difficult, experience, because you need to be able to do the two at the same time. The second mindset, which is very important, and I've evolved personally in the last few years, where things were in place for quite a while. I said they have been in place, that they should work. No, I'm very much now pushing the team to challenge the status quo, and to go, of course, for experimentation, test and learn approach. I think it's very important that what exists gets challenged. And challenging the status quo is a very, very important way, of course, to drive innovation. The two last points are how you make sure that you move fast. And the agile approach is something that we have been pushing across the organization. And I think it's really two things. It's very much organizing those sprints. You understand what I mean? You focus your energy for
Correct.
a limited a couple of weeks, and you do it extremely well at Indigene. And of course, you are also very organized in terms of having a very, very specific and a very detailed planning. And of course, we know that everything is not going to work the first day. So this approach of being very iterative is something that is very important. So really, you test, you learn, you optimize, but always trying to be as iterative as possible. And the last point, but I really alluded to it a little bit earlier, it's about data-driven decision making. I think it's making sure and having this discipline that when you make decision based on data, and of course, very relevant insights. So really this dimension of making sure that you have across the organization the right mindset and the right capabilities is something that is absolutely key.
Super. Oh, this is very, very helpful. So double clicking on your data, this is again one of your passion, right? I know your pillars of hybrid, personalization, content scale, one of them is data. And now in Sanofi, you've called out clearly, you, Paul Hudson, all of you, we've seen that Sanofi want to use AI at scale for driving actionable insights. Would love to know what kind of initiatives you're doing to actually, because nothing can be achieved, content personalization, hybrid selling models, till you are empowered by, or enabled by data insights. So we'd love to hear your story.
Yeah. So at Sanofi, we really are aiming to become the first biopharma company powered by AI at scale. And there are two dimensions here. There is, of course, the AI dimension, but there's another dimension which I would argue is even more important. It's AI at scale. So in today's world, opportunity costs are very high. You follow me, especially in the research-driven industry. The more you can invest in R&D, and the more you get prepared, of course, for the future. And we need to make sure that we use our resources in the best way, because everything that we do has an opportunity cost. And the question I'm asking myself every time, we are talking about resources, are those resources well placed in order to build our future? And I'm really pushing the team to re-challenge, every euro or US dollars that we spend, to make sure that in doing that, we create really the future. So to optimize the investment, and this is something that we have really implemented in general medicine within Sanofi, in the general medicine GBU, is really this very, very relentless, approach to dynamic resource allocation. And it's, of course, about the global level. We define, our strategy. We have an investment committee where we review on a monthly basis, our level investment, and we are looking into the future based on scenario. We are using our internal AI app, and we are delivering, a real-time data across Sanofi. So at the global level, we want to make sure that we define the strategy. At the market level, we want to assess, of course, the return on investment on promotion, using, of course, the tools that we have, but more importantly, at GSAP level, and I'm more on the execution, I want to make sure that we optimize our resources, and here we are using, AI-based omnichannel engine. It's about, we are not talking about the level investment here. We are talking about making sure, given the investment that we have, we organize the right sequence vis-à-vis the HCP in order to maximize the impact. You understand that, of course, there is a pragmatic, we are talking about data, you could argue it's very scientific. Yes, it is, but it's not a linear process. And we have, iterative process with feedback loops. It is very important that there is a little bit this tension between global and local in order to make sure that even if we have a common approach, a common framework, we are able, of course, to get feedback, and this is very important. And we incorporate the feedback in the way we operate.
Wow, this is fantastic what you're doing, Olivier. Looking forward to how you unfold the story here. I'm down to the last two questions of mine, and the next one is on sales and marketing. How do you actually help sales and marketing? I know we talked about content, we talked about hybrid selling models. How do you get the sales and marketing to look at how do they implement some of these global solutions, global frameworks at the local level? Extending that's very critical, because to realize your full potential, these obviously both teams have to really work closely with your global teams. And what's your point of view there?
So here it's very important to leverage, the technology for localization. And of course, we are building, common technology platform to manage, this global to local content, distribution, ensuring consistency, making sure that, as I was mentioning a little bit earlier, we integrate also this feedback loop. But we need to have common platform that provides a very strong framework. I mentioned also that when there is a framework, there is clear guardrails, there are clear global standards that are non-negotiable. We want to make sure that we empower also the local team for decision and for adaptation when it's required. But we want to do it in the right way, because it's obvious that we don't want to reinvent the wheel. I'm putting a lot of pressure when I'm seeing, some local content being engineered in the countries, when at the same time there is a lot of work that is being done at the global level. And it's, of course, that it's not efficient. You run into risk, and at some point also you can erode the value of the brand, because if everyone is doing something different, it's a little bit of an issue. So I prefer, to make sure that we build this bi-directional feedback loop where, the local model is a model where local has an influence to define really what is global, and there is those feedback loops that are very, very important. And the last point, which I think is very important as we are building something clearly new, is that perfection doesn't exist. And we need to embrace what I call the 80-20 principle, and making sure that we prioritize value creation and speed, of course, over perfection.
Yeah, you've talked that quite a bit, that don't run after perfection, and speed is important. So coming last, I know we talked a lot about our pharma industry, but I know you personally and Sanofi also have always tried to embrace things from outside the industry. It's very critical for us to be open-minded and learn from what the industry outside are doing, and they're do much faster, much better. So are there areas where you've looked at, and any specific examples across other industries which you've seen and which is an inspiration for you and for the industry?
Yeah, I think, Gaurav, it's an important question because I spend a significant portion of my time understanding, what happens across, other industry. And we know that pharma is relatively traditional. And of course, I have to say that I'm very impressed by the way, Amazon is using data. I just take an example. It's very anecdotal. Each and every year I go on vacation and I go swimming in the western part of France. And each and every year, I receive, a pop-up, from Amazon telling me, oh, you'd better buy new swimming glasses.
Wow.
But it's not about swimming glasses. It's about, last year you bought, some red one. Why this year wouldn't you take, some green glasses? So I find it super, super impressive. It's really very, very personalized. It happens really on time. I don't know how they do it, but it's almost when I'm always starting my vacation, so it's very impressive. I'm also, have to say, quite impressed by the Netflix approach with the AI-powered next best content. And of course, we know that their algorithm, you like what you like. If it's relatively close to what you like, there is a higher probability that you like it. But the thing that really amazed me is I'm cycling over weekends, and I'm using an app that some of you might know, which is called Strava, which can allow me to assess, the way I'm progressing. And it's amazing that I don't know again how they connected, but there was a Tour de France cycling, small documentary, which was quite good, and they connect the dots. So I was advised, to look to this film, which was absolutely great, and they have been able, in a way, of course, to connect the dots. Everyone knows about Starbucks. What I find quite interesting is that in whatever place in the world, in some way you have the same customer experience, and they have all your data. So it's really amazing. Maybe one last example. I was getting busy with my daughter was going to move in a new place, and I was looking at the IKEA site, and it's quite impressive to see how they are using augmented and virtual reality to provide, an experience to their customers. And, you move the furniture in the room, and it's really very, very impressive. And it has nothing to do with what we know when we were drawing on a sheet of paper many years ago. So you see here, you build a true customer experience. And it is clear that all those experiences now are becoming a reality in pharma across the life cycle management. We talked about, of course, mass market. We talk also about rare disease. At each and every step, of the intervention, more and more, things are getting more and more personalized. Understanding each and every step is something that is absolutely key. So I think there are experience across the industry. At the end of the day, we want to make sure that our customers, defined in a broad sense, are having the best, customer experience.
Olivier, I'm end of my questions. It's been a fantastic, last 30 minutes with you. I know you've always been an inspiration to us, and I'm so happy that we kicked off this year's summit, with you coming in as a keynote and the opening speaker. I know you're really busy, We sincerely appreciate from Indegene and all the participants that you came in and spent time with us today. Olivier, looking forward to stay connected. Wish you all the best in the journey, and hopefully we'll hear more stories from you if you can spare some more time, at least twice a year, to tell us more stories. You're truly an inspiration. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. I'm very looking forward, to share with you our progress. I know that it's going to be a long journey, but it's important at some point, to take a little bit of distance and understand a little bit the progress. So happy to do it in a few months.
Thank you, Olivier. Thank you. Hopefully, you all enjoyed what Olivier shared. This is what the future is, and he's setting the tone for the summit for the next 2 days. Thank you, and looking forward to meeting you next year. Bye-bye. Thank you.